What'd I watch? Uh, oh god. Oh jeez. Oh my god. I'm so fucking disappointed. The hype was just too much for this movie. My expectations were just way too high. And I mean, not unreasonably so. Infinity War is the greatest movie of our time. Look at these numbers that Endgame is doing. It broke the opening day record, opening weekend record, opening global record. It's 1.2 billion in its first 3 to 5 days. It's unprecedented. Why do you think that happened? It's because everybody knew they had seen the greatest movie of our time with Infinity War, and they have to see what happens. They have to see the ending, and now that I've seen it, kind of wish I hadn't. I gotta be honest here, the mess I was afraid Infinity War would be is what Endgame is. It's a mess of a movie. Oh, Jesus Christ. I mean, there are great things in it. There are great things about it. Don't get me wrong. It's just... Look, I foolishly hoped beyond reason and luck that the curse would finally be broken. You know how the third movie in a trilogy or the ending of a saga is always the weakest. It's always the worst part. You got Return of the Jedi is the worst movie of the original trilogy. Return of the King is the weakest of Lord of the Rings. Dark Knight Rises is the worst of the Batman trilogy. It just can't be done. I've come to realize that. I thought the curse would be broken. I thought Endgame maybe there would be a chance it would be as good or better than Infinity War, which I know is impossible. That movie is perfect, a 10, and Endgame isn't. It's just, this always happens. Part of the journey is the end. And the end is always the weakest. It's just impossible. You can't make the victory better than the downfall. That's what I've discovered. I've hoped someone would get it right after all these years, and nobody ever has. Now, as I lament the end of the MCU, I can't help but confess that I feel disappointed. For absolute sure, Endgame is not as good as Infinity War. That is just objectively true. Subjectively, you might enjoy the emotional moments in Endgame more, which is, I think, fine. Well, what puzzles me is how conflicting an experience this is. What the fuck? What the fuck did I see? I don't think I've ever seen anything like it, and that's not a good thing. I should have known it would have been the time travel. The major issue really is the time travel. I don't think anything gets it right. I mean, do you remember Rian Johnson's Looper? No, of course you don't. That movie started off so great and then climaxed way too early with that implied torture scene, which was amazing, and then ended way too neatly tying up its time looping paradox. That's how it should never be. It should never be something that's simple like that. And since Endgame relies so heavily on time travel and the multiple timeline scenario, it doesn't quite work as it should. Look, I don't care what anybody says. Infinity War is still the greatest movie of our time. It is the greatest movie of our time. And Endgame repeats a lot of it, but not in ways we should welcome. Because of the time travel, so many events of the first movie are seen again, and not in very exciting ways. I was bored and just plain shocked at the decisions being made in the first 2 hours. The tone was that of a goofy parody. After that time skip, and man, what a time skip! The movie just falls apart into a cartoonish joke. Look at what they do to Thor! Look at what they did to Thor! And Hulk! Is he Grey Hulk now? Is some passive celebrity taking selfies with the kids? This is a comedy, but for the wrong reasons. I mean, did I laugh in Endgame? Yeah, sure I did. But I tilted my head in confusion so many times. I don't get it. These decisions! I was just in the theater, sitting sitting like this, just sort of, I couldn't really believe what I was watching. I was painfully aware I was watching a movie, Infinity War took hold of me almost instantly, and it didn't let go. I was transported, that I was not watching a movie. I was just there, experiencing that tragedy, and it blew me away, and it destroyed me like no movie ever has, I think. But this movie was the polar opposite. I knew I was in the theater. I knew I was in an IMAX showing. I knew I was watching a 3-hour movie. I knew I was watching the end, and I was just sitting if you had seen me during Infinity War, I was probably this for 2.5 hours, but, the opening of the movie told me so much. I should have known You know, it began so abruptly with Hawkeye and his family. Like, immediately after the trailers played that cut to black, and then immediately you see Hawkeye showing his daughter how to shoot the arrows. And then things happen. And then the Marvel logo rolls with Dear Mr. Fantasy playing. The not-so-serious tone was set right there. It was set right there. It was right there. They told me from the beginning it wasn't going to be that serious. Like, compare that to Alan Silvestri's perfect brooding score, playing very lowly under the Marvel logo during Infinity War. We have two polar opposite films. And I don't think that's such a good thing. Endgame's earlier scenes do transition to a little darker in nature. And we get a surprise that happens way too quick, way too early, that we know better. But man, what a time skip! My heart almost exploded out of my chest! Like, seriously, like, that, when Thor, like, walks away and the focus blurs, and then it's like 5 years later. Like, the way they did that was perfect. Absolutely perfect. But then everything after that, then we come to the group therapy sessions with a cameo from one of the Russo brothers. Then we come to the broken Avengers looking for what cannot be found. And there's Captain Marvel sporting a super short haircut. You know, none of this is really that compelling. It's really not truly compelling. Maybe that's the nature of stories like this. The recovery from the dark times perhaps must always be lame and sorrowful. But I don't know, I just couldn't accept the movie I was watching. I couldn't accept it. For a scene or two, this might have been fine. Really, it might have. But this is the whole first 2 hours! First the weird sorrow, then the awkward and cartoony comedy, and then everything is a joke. Infinity War had transcended its genre and became so much more than a superhero movie. That it was an epic space tragedy. The very best film you'll see for years to come. Endgame is trapped unexpectedly in its genre. It is a superhero movie. And a heist caper. And some neo-noir bits in there. Is this what I wanted in an epic conclusion so perfectly set up by its predecessor? The searching of the stones in different timelines before Thanos gets them is all over the place. The mess I was scared Infinity War would be is what Endgame is, especially in all these sequences. There's just so much fluff. The film cuts around all of them in a strange manner, and not so good pacing. And I get it, there was way too much to accomplish here. They return to and pay homage to each and every single Marvel movie ever made. And while I love the idea of that, in the theater I just sat so underwhelmed. I wished for more, but they didn't give it to me. Not till the end. Look, I'm being vague because I don't want there to be spoilers in this, but I don't fucking know anymore. Like, do I talk about spoilers? Like, the final hour did wow me, at least. But it's fucking fan service, seriously, like, it really is. There are a few moments to mark our generation with. Endgame peaks at a 10 in its final act. For sure, you won't be let down by it. It's just that everything it takes to get there lost me. I really was painfully aware I was watching a movie that was too cartoony for its own good. Josh Brolin returns as Thanos, and it just isn't the same. There is a reveal of his that will undo a big problem a lot of people had with Thanos' plan in the first movie, and what he plans to do in this movie. Other than that, his menace didn't take hold of me like before. I didn't feel anything of his presence, not till Cap and him have their one-on-one, and a moment with Captain Marvel, a very brief moment. That's all I'll say. People will walk out of this movie loving it, and thinking it's the best movie they've ever seen. It isn't. It's the events of the final hour that will get their praise. They will forget the first 120 minutes like it isn't there, and like it didn't have major issues. The editing just doesn't cut it. The editing just isn't there. Come on, seriously, it isn't. They hold on shots they shouldn't. They cut around to people at all the wrong moments. They skip the people who have the most important lines. Ugh! Iron Man, Cap, and Thor all approaching Thanos is chopped to pieces. The epicness is lost in the telling. And the painful edit away once the fight begins. I was so mad! Look, and I mean, the trailers showed these scenes better, like Scarlet Witch, I mean, Black Widow saying Thanos did what he was exactly what he said he was going to do. He wiped out 50% of all living things, and then in the trailer, like, you see Scarlett's performance when she does that, and it's kind of a really good one. It's kind of heartbreaking, but in the movie, it cuts around to all the people in the room, and you only see Scarlett for the last, like, I think not even half a couple of words. What the fuck? And there's just so many scenes like that. I'm so fucking confused about this movie! I dug the very beginning. And I loved the end, I think. Not all of the end, but a lot of the moments in the fight, with Captain America specifically. But the very, very, very end has its problems too, which kind of depressed me, honestly. More time travel at the very, very end. Like, what the fuck? But as for the rest, I think I hate it. I think I hate most of this movie. I hated that all of Alan Silvestri's perfect musical cues and score from Infinity War were shamelessly pasted over and over again in moments where they don't work in Endgame. They were just reused in scenes and moments they shouldn't have been. Oh my god. Like, you remember that perfect haunting thing when Thanos is torturing Nebula to get Gamora the stones on Vormir, and you hear the music. It's like this really great tragic setup, and that same theme is playing, I think, with Gamora and Nebula at another point, out of fucking nowhere. Out of fucking nowhere! It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Infinity War was perfectly scored, perfectly edited, effortlessly amazing. Endgame is a mess, with 1 great hour, and 2 that try so hard to undo it. And Captain Marvel's role in all this, after all that hype, after her movie came out last month, after Nick Fury dropped his pager at the end of Infinity War, well, you'll see. I was not impressed. And Thor! Thor with PTSD devolving into... You'll see. He's a fat drunk now, like... For the whole movie. For the whole runtime. A fat drunk. He was my favorite in Infinity War. My absolute favorite. And he's a joke in Endgame. He's a joke. He's a fat drunk. He talks way too much. But at least Captain America has all the best moments he deserves. And 2 characters who shared a powerful moment in Infinity War again share another one here. And all of this ends with the person it started with. At the very least, that was touching. Okay, I appreciate the work that was done here. I appreciate that I got to see this movie and see an unprecedented universe series come to a close. But man, there was so much they could have done. All the theories, speculation, endless thoughts about what could happen, and basically none of it did. I had comic book fans talk to me about how they acquired the rights, and who knows if Wolverine was going to show up, or the Fantastic Four, and Doctor Doom, and all this stuff, and Grey Hulk, and Worldbreaker Hulk, and then, you know, that Hulk was going to do something. Something. Other than be a joke. And I thought with the time travel, maybe they'd prove me wrong. Maybe they'd get it right this time, you know. Maybe we'd have multiple Thanoses, but, like, not in a shitty way that undoes everything that was great about the first one. He's probably, in Infinity War, Thanos might be the greatest villain of all time. Certainly top 5. Absolutely. Everybody would put him up there. Disagree or agree with his methods, it doesn't matter. As a menacing villain, he is the best. This movie, he's a silly, cookie-cutter, strongman villain with a Darth Maul sword. I mean, it's kind of cool if I had never seen Infinity War and didn't expect anything. Not really that cool when I've seen Infinity War. The time travel is as lame as I feared it would be. And so many things that should have stayed on the cutting room floor. So many things. And fuck it, they could have rewritten from the 10-minute mark to the 2-hour one. And the very end is it's just so cheesy. That send-off, like, they're trying so hard to say goodbye and to get everyone in the frame, everyone in the shot, and it just feels so cheesy. It feels like a bad series finale to a great TV show. Jesus, man. Like, I did get emotional in the final hour for obvious reasons when you see it, especially with a certain character. But other than that, man, like, it's such forced melodrama. It really, forced is the word. It's so forced. It's just, they're trying so hard. And they had so much to accomplish, and they shot way too much footage. Like, this had to have been Apocalypse Now level of film, like, insane amounts. Way too much. It was obvious from the trailers. It was obvious. Then I saw multiple cuts of Thor calling Stormbreaker when he's talking to Captain Marvel. He's like, I like this one. In one shot, it just flies straight like this. The other one, it's like, you know, and then they went with the second one. But you just saw multiple angles from it. Way too much footage. Way too much. And that always causes a problem in the editing, always. And you know, Infinity War was planned. It was perfect. You felt like it was the Coen Brothers shit, you know, just absolutely efficient. Every shot had a meaning. It perfectly cut, perfectly shot. Everything with intention. This movie didn't have intention. Not for 2/3 of it, I think. I should have known Endgame wouldn't be nowhere near as good as Infinity War. But I hoped it would be. And maybe I was wrong to walk in with such hope. But I lost sleep thinking about this movie. I had nightmares about everything that could go wrong for weeks and weeks leading up to this. Now that I've seen it, I can finally sleep. But I wish that I couldn't. Some people move on from Endgame. Not us. Not us. I will say this. Stay for the credits. There's no post-credit scene, but the final end credits with everybody's name coming up for, like, supposedly the last time is epic. Especially the original 6 Avengers, what they do there. Very beautiful, very touching. Wish most of the movie could have been like that. So Infinity War, epic space tragedy, among the best films of all time. Of all time, no disputing that. Endgame is fan service. It is an ending that people wanted so bad that it will trick them into thinking they've seen a great film. It is not a great film. It is not a great film. It has great things, certainly great things about it, but overall inconsistent, cluttered. Holy fuck, a mess of a movie. When I saw Infinity War, I had to go back to the theater immediately. I got panic attacks going the second time. That's how good it was. I saw it 5 times in theaters, and I wish I had seen it more. I thought I was going to see Endgame 40 times in theaters, and now that I've seen it, I kind of don't want to see it again, but I'm going to have to see it again. And then I can talk about every single spoiler detail and in a week from now when everyone has seen them, or 2 weeks from now when everyone's seen the movie. But I kind of wish I could skip the first 2 hours in a 3-hour movie. And that's the saddest part. That's the saddest part. I'm gonna get something to eat. This is what you get, Seb. This is what you get for being positive at the movies. This is what you get for hoping beyond all reason and doubt. Never hope, Seb. Never hope.